Recurring revenue and freedom are not the same thing, and chasing one will not get you the other. If you run an agency, I'll bet that monthly recurring revenue is probably high up on your KPIs. It's the number that you want to build up and share and shout about as a marker of your success. And it's the one that hits that ego and comes with this enormous amount of satisfaction to see it grow. And I know because I've been there and I've chased it and I've tried to grow it at the expense of some of the other areas of my business. But I learned a valuable lesson during my time doing that. And that was that growing this number has no bearing on how good your agency actually is. In fact, it can drag you right back into the business and literally suck you in so that you can't even have a few days off without everything falling apart in your absence. You can build an impressive monthly recurring revenue and yet still end up with a tiny profit at the end of it for all of that extra work and stress that you've taken on. And you are at an even higher risk if you're selling what you call a retainer, but what is actually just a set number of hours wrapped up under the disguise of a retainer. The longer you work with a client, the more they'll squeeze that time and therefore your margins. I have another video on pricing models, so check that out after this one if you haven't seen it. But in this video, I want to show you why MRR can literally trap you inside of your business and share what I've learned about building an agency that's designed for freedom. And hopefully I might be able to help someone listening to not make the same mistakes that I made and that I now see regularly as a coach to other agency owners, and to spot the warning signs early before they become really expensive to fix. So let's start with why this number fools so many good agency owners, myself included in the early years. As I said, the thing about recurring revenue is that it feels safe. It's an easy thing to put on your scoreboard. It's a nice clean number to work towards, and it's true to form. It is what it is, there's no gray areas, and it's something that you can build up over time. And everyone online that you speak to will treat this as a marker of what makes a serious agency. Add to that the dopamine hits and the ego boost that comes with seeing this number rip. And of course, it's really easy to see how this can be the one that you focus on and the number that you become obsessed about. But when you really think about it, revenue is just the money that comes in the very top of your business. It's the first touch point with your business as money exchanges hands. So it tells you what comes into your business, but it doesn't tell you what's left at the end. And it doesn't tell you things like how hard your team have had to work to get there, or whether the whole business would just fall apart if you took your eye off the ball for a week or two, or whether you're overly reliant on one or two key team members, or that your churn is so high that you're on this never-ending hamster wheel just to stay still, let alone grow. And this is what I've come to learn even more clearly now because I have visibility into multiple agencies. And that's that you can have two agencies that are on the same recurring revenue, but the founders and the businesses can be in completely different places. So on one side, you can have an owner who's really good and has good balance. They're calm, they're highly profitable, and they're stable. And then the other agency owner could be really stressed, really anxious about taking time off, trying to manage these wild swings in profit. Sometimes they make money and sometimes they don't, but they don't know when either of those scenarios is going to play out. And the high stress causes them to not trust their team, and they end up with this stacked calendar with back-to-back calls, meetings, and low-value work. And so they're very different businesses, and the founders enjoy a very different experience. So that's the risk of judging yourself purely on MRR and having this as like the headline figure that you just obsess about. It's really important not to allow that figure to hide everything that actually matters to you as the owner of the business, and the one that's actually going to set you free as an owner, where you have time to spend with friends, family, travel, can spend time on your hobbies, take holidays whilst also building your future. Because this is a compounding game. You build an agency to compound your wealth over a long period of time, or you build it to sell, or both. But in all circumstances, the profit is what matters. So if not MRR, then what? For me, the answer, after more than 15 years of only ever being my own boss and now watching lots of other agency owners go through a similar journey, is that this all comes back to profit. Because profit is the only thing that you can actually take out of your business, and it's the only number that any buyer will really look at. And really, it's the only one that can end up in your pocket, as it can genuinely change your life as an agency owner. It's what pays for your time off, it's what pays for your holidays, and the future that you're supposed to be building for yourself. Revenue is the one that you can brag about, but profit is the bit that you actually get to keep. And later on, people notice the profit because of how you live and the things you get to enjoy. The agency bros will still be quoting MRR figures as if it's their personal income, whilst you're signing off on your dream family home. And once this sinks in, it can really change how you choose to grow. Because the temptation, the thing that everyone online is pushing towards, is just to grow at all costs. And you see coaches pitching this all the time, where they promise 30K, 50K, 100K months, with no regard for the health of their client's business. It's just growth pitched by people in their spare bedroom who have never made a profit. But rush growth is almost always at the expense of margins and stress levels, because in order to hit those targets, it takes investment. Growth requires investment. It's really easy to take on clients that you shouldn't, and to hire in a rushed state, and to let your standards slip as you fail to fix the things that need your attention. All this to say that ultimately you end up with bigger, but not better. So what I've come to believe is that no single metric is the right answer. Instead, I look at 3 levels: income, profit, and freedom. I call this my IPF system, and you will cycle through them. Lose a client, focus on income. Win back-to-back clients, start to tighten profit. The level determines your top goal that you'll focus on. And by the way, if you're an agency owner and you'd like a super quick report that tells you what level you should be focused on, there's a link in the description that you can head over to. It's completely free, takes just 2 minutes. So ideally what we're talking about is growing in a controlled and sustainable way, where you actually keep an eye on your business and what it needs in the moment. By using my IPF system, you'll never become blinded by one metric. Working through the levels and adapting your focus as you cycle through them is a far more reliable way to improve the health of your business. Okay, so let's talk about what actually goes wrong, because this is the part that most people get caught out on. And I've seen this, especially working firsthand with other agency owners, and also having the reference point of my own experience. When all of your attention goes on growth, winning the next client stops you from noticing the operational cracks that can start to form within your business. And these very rarely show up as one big obvious problem. Sometimes it's an accumulation of a lot of little cracks. And now imagine water going into those cracks. Water has to find a way out, and so as it navigates, it's going to expose the extra weaknesses as it finds its way through. That can start with delivery issues, because you take on clients at a faster rate than you can actually manage. Your team becomes stretched, processes, if you have them, get bypassed, because people are just trying to do their best to keep up. And then when your business switches its reliance from processes to people, you start to lose control as a business owner, because you can no longer afford to lose those people. If standards slip, clients can become needy and demanding, and to please them, you can start accepting out of scope requests. And now you're setting new expectations for that client. Meanwhile, other clients who have had enough of your poor service begin to churn. Your retention rate drops, and now your win rate needs to increase just to keep up. There goes that 2-week break you were dreaming about. It's a combination of all of these very slow, quiet increases in pressure that starts to burn everyone out, including yourself. And the really painful part with all of this is that operational issues like this are very hard to reverse once they bed in. So for example, once a client feels that they can come to you with additional work and not get charged for it, the moment you try to charge for any future work, they're going to become really frustrated. And once you become reliant on 1 or 2 people in your team, you know that you need to get that knowledge and experience out of their head, but these guys are almost always the busiest people in your team. And so they're not going to have time to do that, not without risking sending them over the edge, having them burn out or leave. And so it's never one single thing. It's normally 5 or 6 happening at once. And this is why I go back to my IPF system, because taking stock regularly helps you to stay on top of where your business is stretching and straining. Learn to never feel the need to focus on one metric, because metrics move together, never in isolation. Knowing this and embracing it means that you can move your attention over to the metric that is under pressure. You fix that, and then you'll be able to handle the extra capacity, or maybe you're going to speed up onboarding, Or maybe you'll find the root cause to why your clients are churning, and then you can go back to growth. But the idea is that you're always cycling between the 3 levels to make sure that you're building your business evenly over time. So look, if there's one thing I want you to take away from all of this, is that recurring revenue is not as amazing as the internet will have you believe. And it shouldn't be the only goal that you obsess over. It's just a number, and on its own, it doesn't tell you whether you're actually winning or not. The real goal is building an agency that gives you a good life, one that generates enough profit to be able to pay for the things that matter to you, and stable enough so that you can actually step away from it without feeling like the whole thing is going to crumble to pieces. Income is important, but it must be realized as profit to deliver the freedom that you need. This is how the 3 levels all work together. And isn't freedom the reason that most of us start an agency in the first place? But somewhere along the line, we lose sight of that, chasing those numbers. So remember to cycle through the 3 levels: income, profit, and freedom, giving your attention to the one that needs it most in that moment. And that's how you'll build something that is strong, something that lasts, something that compounds over the long term, whether that's to build wealth over time or to one day sell it and realize a larger life-changing capital event. Just remember that profit and freedom is what matters, and that a bigger agency and a better life are not necessarily the same thing. If you're an agency owner and you just want to take a couple of minutes to find out the level that you should be working on, follow the link in my description and you can take a quick quiz to find out what it is. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for more agency insights. Cheers.